All right, we're moving on to the next phase. To recap what we did, we blocked in the arch on top of this red background, blocked in the light areas, blocked in the darker areas, these different elements of the rocks and the trees that are behind it, foliage. And then started getting a little bit more specific with the edges, a little bit more specific with light and shadow. But remember also that there's multiple layers of different colors. So this archway had red underneath it that still pokes through, this red and orange. Then the lighter areas, some blue, a little bit of red put over it, a little bit of this kind of golden yellow. So we're really building up layers. And then this brickwork, some light and dark to get a little bit of that combination of texture. So now our next steps, we need to get to the top layers. We're going to start adding a little bit more specific detail in there. If there's anything with light and shadow for these bushes, the foliage needs to get dropped in. I wanted that on top of this layer. And then we'll hit this edge a little bit more. We're going to add a little bit to the ground. We're not going to leave the river red. We're going to drop in some color on top of that. So now we need to move on to more of the final stage. So we went from kind of big picture to more of a detail, but we still have the final details to drop in on top. So this was kind of the middle stage, layering lots of color on top of each other. We layered a lot of different colors and different values. So even in the dark areas, it's not one solid color. There's lights and darks, and there's a variety of colors. Even in this part with the foliage, there's some dark green, light green, and we'll hit it with a little bit of the lighter values still. We're moving on to kind of the last third of the painting. Get a little bit more specific with details and start crafting a little bit more of our more recognizable shapes as we go. So since I know I'm going to work on a few different parts, I'm going to hold off on this and do this last, just so that I'm not dragging it. If you're right-handed, you can start with one area or the top area, and then that way, as you're working across, you kind of move that way. So you can see how I lay down grayish, bluish, greenish for the color. And then I rubbed in with a paper towel to get a little bit of the red back. So you can see when you look at it from farther away, how the white, the unnaturalness of the color, even though the original source, this water, is artificial looking. It doesn't look right. But for it to kind of match up with the rest of the painting, now I'm going over real lightly some of that light blue that I had mixed with white, and I'm bringing back just blue, the blue that you have. I'm bringing back my blue, and then a little bit of a green that I mixed with yellow. That's a more vibrant green than the original green. I'm loading up my brush with a little bit of green, a little bit of blue. It's not 100% mixed, so that way I get a little bit of a separate blue and green streak every once in a while. Me personally, I like the little bit of vibrancy on top, so I still have that bluish gray color underneath. I rubbed out a little bit of that so I could still see enough of the red through it for consistency and just depth and movement. Adds a little bit of interest to it. And now I'm brushing back over it with a little bit more of the vibrant color that I want. So you can see how that changed the tone and the feel of that water. Gonna let this dry, and then we'll be back. Now, final touches. I could leave it like this. I have taken source material and I've made a version of it. I've turned reality into a painting. changed some color schemes, you know, done some different things to it. I could leave it at this. The parts that I personally want to bring out a little bit, I still want to bring out a little bit of the areas of greenery. I think that I need a little bit of these details on the archway, besides just the impression of them, and a little bit more of the detail of the rocks. I might touch up the color of the river. I haven't quite decided on that. In terms of the archway and my depth, I'm pretty pleased with that. At this point, what I always suggest is when it's dry, prop it up, look at it from 6 to 8 feet away. Look at it from the big picture, looking from a good distance. And what you're looking for when you look at it from farther away, I want to see how space is looking. This part definitely comes forward and this part is definitely going backwards. Is this part going backwards, or does this actually look like it's closer than this? Same thing here. These are definitely coming forward from that, so that's good. Does this part look like it's behind? Does it look too flat? Does it actually look like it's a piece of architecture behind it, or is it just kind of there? So these are the things I'm looking at and deciding on. So not only am I looking at my final details, but I'm also looking at like the overall effect as I look at it from slightly farther away, in terms of what looks like it's actually in front, what looks like it's behind. Am I creating space between the different elements? So when we're talking about finishing up details, what I'm talking about is this is enough. I don't feel like I need to go in and, you know, rough up any edges or do anything. This edge, the fact that it goes in here and it doesn't actually match up, is something I might fix. The original source material actually has something that looks like a little bit of either a broken part or a bit of sculpture off to the side there. So I can decide if I want to do that or not. But if I want anything that's a little bit more detailed here, that's what I'm talking about, adding in some of those elements. So I'm going to do a little bit of touching up here, and then we'll come back.